In this lesson, we're going to finish out the hands. Alright, so in the last lesson we had come in and we started working on the fingers and getting all the palm pieces together. And now we've got the geometry, but now we need to start working on the topology, making sure that it's going to deform properly. So to get started with this, let's select our hand and go to Editable Poly. And under here, you'll remember that we have some n-gons above our knuckles. Now this is going to be a fairly simple fix. What we need to do is we need to come into vertex mode, hitting 1 on the keyboard. We'll right-click and we'll cut. Now the issue that we have here is that these segments can continue to go all the way up here into the hand, but that's going to propose some issues whenever trying to connect to the wrist. If you'll remember, the wrist is made up of 8 sides, and so we need to make sure that we have 8 sides here along the top to connect to that. So what I propose to do with these loops is, instead of going all the way through the geometry, we'll just turn those loops into a different direction and terminating that into another loop in the model. So to do this, we're going to go from this part of the knuckle and we're just going to create a triangle right here on the corner. Now if you'll remember, we could create localized loops using triangles. So we'll come over here across to this side and we'll go up to that vertex. Now once we have that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to edge mode and I'm going to select this edge and hold shift and select this edge. Now you'll notice that it's not selecting that ring. The reason for that is because it's across n-gons. So instead what we'll have to do is hold down Control and multiple click each one. Now that we've done that, let's go ahead and use Connect. And you'll notice that when it connects, it makes it very flat. It doesn't follow along with the contour of the model that we had already. So let's hit cancel on that and let's use Loops Flow Connect. This kind of gives us the same type of result than with Swift Loop whenever we hold down Shift. So this can be very helpful. Let's go to vertex mode and select the vertices on those triangles, and then we're going to use our scale tool and scale those in toward one another. But before we do that, let's make sure that we constrain those vertices to the edge. You could also hit Control 2 if you've loaded in those custom keyboard shortcuts. Now if you want to learn how to do that, you can always take a look at level 3 again. So here we've created the loop that goes up over the top of these knuckles. Now we have one more area that we need to take care of. We have these n-gons here. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to right click and we're going to cut. We're going to go from the middle of this knuckle to here, and then we'll go from the middle of this knuckle to here, and then we'll create a loop in between. So a very easy solution. So we'll connect that. And actually, let's use Flow Connect. Sorry about that. Let's go to Loops, Flow Connect, and then we'll grab Vertex Mode, and then we'll scale these in the Y. And you should still have that edge constraint turned on. So there, we've got our geometry for our hand. We're looking pretty good. And now what we need to do is we need to start working on the inside of the palm. Now looking at this a little bit further, there might be some changes that we want to make to this overall model. I'm really not happy with the geometry that's created in here. I've got a lot of n-gons that are separated out, that are surrounded by quads. I've got some triangles that have the same situation. I have a triangle right on top of another triangle here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself another chance with this. So I'm going to go to polygon mode and I'm going to select all these polygons right here in the thumb. And I'm going to delete those. Let's go to border mode, select that border and cap it. Now we'll come in and we'll start cutting. Now I'm going to come in and just do what I think looks natural in this. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to cut from right here in the middle, and I'm going to come right up here to the middle of the palm. I'm going to cut from here up, and then this one doesn't really have a segment to go into, so I'm going to cut from here up to here. So it kind of looks like the same type of problem that we had before. We're starting to get more and more n-gons, and it can be a little distracting. So how do we take care of this? Well, let's just continue cutting this and getting it all together, because I think we can create some localized loops to get rid of some of this geometry. So let's go from here up to here. And then I'm going to go from here down to here. All right, that looks good. And then I'm going to go from here to here. And then I'll create a triangle over here. That looks great. Let's take that vertex right here in the middle. Let's grab our Move tool and let's push that in a little bit. Now let's make sure that we turn off our constraint. So hit Control 1 or come down here to Edit Geometry and select None. Let's push that in just a little bit, and we might even pull that up. Okay, so we still have the shape of the palm here. We could do a little bit more shape on the form, but we're looking pretty good at this moment. Now the only issue that we have underneath is we have these two triangles. Now they are separated by quads, so we know what we can do. We can come in and we can select those edges, holding down Control, and we can come in and we can connect those. Now there's only one issue that we have here with this. We have the issue of this n-gon right here. So we really can't use that loop all the way across. We may have to come in and change the loops up a little bit. We may have to come across to the other side, but we know that we've already set this up as quads on the other side. So it's really going to be hard to terminate that segment. So what do we do here? Well, I'm going to go ahead and propose that we continue with that cut. So let's create the loops and let's hit our flow connect. Let's go to vertex mode, select those vertices on the outside, and we're going to scale. Make sure that you have that edge constraint turned on, and let's scale those in. So that creates that nice little loop there. So now what do we do? Do we leave this the way it is, or do we cut it all the way up through the model, or do we just terminate it into a triangle? How do we take care of this? Well, normally if there's only one triangle that's going to be created from this, right here would probably be the best place to do it. Simply because most of the deformation is going to be happening right around the knuckles, and we're going to have plenty of loops around those knuckles to help out with this. And that triangle is pretty inconspicuous, so it's not going to really pose that many problems. So now we have all of our quads set up. We've only got very few triangles. We've got one down here, but all in all that looks pretty good. So now what do we do with the top? How do we get this connect to the wrist? Well, what we need to do is we need to first off count the sides. Excuse me. Let's count the sides that we have right here along the top. We're going to connect it right into this. So if we count this, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. That's going to be a big issue because we need to turn that down into 8. So what are some ways that we can do that? Well, we can go ahead and we can create some more of those localized loops. So I'm going to go to vertex mode, and I'm going to right click and target weld this vertex to here, creating a small triangle there. Let's go to the other side right here, and let's create a small triangle here. Now what we can do is we can go to edge mode, select all of those edges holding down shift. Now there are no n-gons, so that should select that entire ring, and then we'll hit connect. Let's hit OK on that. Let's go to vertex mode and take those vertices, making sure that our edge constraint is turned on, and it is, and we'll scale that inward. Now you may want to turn that edge constraint off, hitting Control 1 or just hitting None here, and do a little bit of tweaking on those individual vertices. You might want to bring this one up a little bit, okay, and then also take this one and pull it out some. So that should be pretty good. So we've got these loops. Everything is looking pretty good so far. Now let's count the sides that we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Actually, I believe 10. So we have 4, 3, 6, 8, 10, 11. So now we need to come in and we need to take care of one more edge. And let's try to figure out exactly where we can take care of that at. Where can we terminate a loop to? And looking at this, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's pull that one out. I'm just trying to look and see if we can place that somewhere else. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 edges right here. And we have, let's go ahead and do this. Let's take these 3 polygons. That's 6, 6, and then 8 on each side. Let's take that and delete that. Then I'm going to go to edge mode, and I'm going to take this edge, I'm going to pull it back. It's going to be kind of the side of the hand, if you will. And then we'll take this one and we'll pull that one over too. That should give us plenty of room for this. So now I can come in and start tweaking the individual vertices, trying to get that to round out a little bit more into the wrist. Pull that down, and this one. Alright, so now let's go to border mode and select that border, and I want to cap that, and then we're going to take that polygon, selecting that, we're going to go to polygons and geopoly, so that way it's going to create a cylindrical shape there, and then we're going to grab our rotation tool and rotate that until the lines are a little more relaxed. Okay, so a little more natural. Then I'm going to take that and I'm going to scale that up a little bit. So we're going to scale it like so, and we'll make that about as large as the place for the wrist there. And then what we can do is we can come in and make the final tweaks of the vertices to match a little bit better in the shape of a wrist. We don't want it to be perfectly cylindrical like that. So we'll pull some of these in, just like so. And that looks pretty good. We're going to go ahead and we're also going to change the shape of this piece as well. So now that we have that, let's move the hand into position. So we'll go to front view, and I'm going to pull that over just a little bit and down. I'm not worried about what it looks like on the reference image, because now we're trying to get geometry to fit together. We might make that a little smaller, just a touch. And then I'm going to go to my left view, hitting L on the keyboard, and then I'm going to rotate that a little bit to kind of match the orientation of the wrist. Okay, so once I have that, move that back a little bit more, and then we're going to go to polygon mode. We're going to delete that polygon, okay, because it's already served its purpose, and now we're going to start connecting to the other piece here. So with this object here, let's go ahead and delete that Turbo Smooth. Then let's select our body, and then with the body under Edit Poly, let's go ahead and attach the hand. Now the hand is going to inherit the Turbo Smooth and the symmetry, so whenever we go over, we've got our other hand at the same time, so we don't have to recreate that. So let's go to Editable Poly, and let's get these two bridge together. So let's go to border mode and select both of those borders, and we're going to use bridge. Let's make sure that our segments are set to 1, because I'm not ready to put any segments in just yet, because we have to do a little bit of reshaping to this. So let's hit OK, and then we're going to go to our front view. Everything looks pretty good for the most part, just a little bit of tweaking here and there to get that shape to come out a little bit better. And actually, I'm going to take these vertices right here along the top, pull those out. Also right here. And then I'm going to take this and push that in. So all in all, this looks pretty good. Just a few things to tweak. So a nice shape to the wrist. Everything flows together pretty well. Let's go ahead and add one more segment right here in the middle. Let me take this and actually push that in some. And I'm also going to push these in too. Just a tiny bit. I don't want to alter the hand too much of what I've built already. So just some minor tweaking on that shape. Okay. You might want to come in on the pads of the hand. You might want to make those a little more shallow because we have to remember that we're working on a female hand, and we want that to seem a little more soft than what it was. Okay, so we'll push this in a little bit, and then I'm going to take these vertices right here, and I'm going to pull those straight down. And the reason that I'm doing that is because this is actually creating the pad of the hand right above your fingers at the knuckle. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to pull that out just a little bit. And it looks like I may have my constraints on. Now we're good now. So we'll push that back and just come in and start to tweak the shape just a little bit more. And we should be good there. Alright, great. So now that we have this, let's add one more segment here. So I'm going to hit Control-Shift-S. And I'm going to cut right here along the middle. I'm going to hold down Shift. And then just make that segment. That's going to allow for deformation in that wrist. So now let's go to Turbo Smooth and kind of see what that looks like. And that looks pretty good. The only suggestion that I would make is to come in and take some of these vertices here on the side. And let's just continue to push those in a little bit more. We might use something like our freeform tools and use the paint deform. Might use the relax a little bit. So we won't want to draw down that size on that tool there. And here's the little tool, so you can take the size down a little bit. And then let's go down to about 4. Let's do 3. And then take our strength down to about 0.5. And we'll just kind of come in and we'll just bump those vertices. And that'll kind of start to draw those in a little bit. And it allows us to do kind of a localized relax on the shape. Now be careful, because you could start to lose some of that detail and some of that form and shape. So you just want to bump it. So just left click on those areas a little bit and don't get too carried away. Alright, so now let's go to Turbo Smooth. I'm happy with that shape. It's pretty good. Happy with the hands, so we've got all of those together. And now what we're going to do in our next lesson is we're going to move on from the arms. We finished out the hands, one of the more difficult pieces, and we're going to start moving into the legs and the pelvis area. So we'll get started with that next.